because I was gone, then you were gone, then I was gone.
See how you are?
She said I was late.
offside?
No, it wouldn't. It would run the whole game. All right. Well, we're going to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for August 9th of 2022. We'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Bills.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll go ahead and have both of our alternates come up since we're short two commissioners. So you have to rock off to see which side you get.
Maybe there's a developer.
I come with my own nameplate.
well, that's good.
Claude's here.
Oh. Oh, you're, yep, okay.
30 seconds earlier.
Or later, you could have turned around, okay?
All right, now that we've got that settled, do any of the commissioners have any declaration of conflicts that they need to declare? Any conflicts that they need to declare? Let me phrase that right.
No.
No.
All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, which is a legislative item, which is a continuation. So we had the... Oh, sorry, yes, I skipped over the minutes. Approval of the minutes from June 14th of 2022, which was a regular meeting. Any comments or a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 14th.
Second.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So item number 3 now, which is a continuation from a meeting that we had a few weeks ago. That did have a public hearing. This tonight will not. But it is to consider the amendments to Title 10 of the zoning regulations, mixed use, and we'll go into a presentation from Steve on that.
Okay, as you mentioned, this is a continuation of amendment to Chapter 13 of Title 10. I've included also a couple other new sections from the discussion last time because the applicant kept referring to apartments and townhomes, vice versa. So adding in storefronts and general stoop buildings to allow for residential with the same criteria as the row homes that we had talked about. So on storefront, and I just kind of highlight it here, we just include residential with the caveat for number 10, only allow with properties with frontages on 2000 West, those 3 minor streets, and then properties that do have access or frontage along 19 can't be within 300 feet of that. So I kept it I just continued it through it. That way, if someone wants to do apartments versus townhomes, it's either way. So that was really the only change, but the language again is similar to what we had talked about and ended with during the work session a couple weeks ago. So having allowances along minor streets, 2000 West, 5200 South west of 19, and 5300 South west of 19 for properties with frontages along 19. This type of building is not allowed within 300 feet back of curb of the street. So again, it gets it way back, and so that main road is still commercial in nature for the main floor.
And in the work session, we kind of overlaid this on some maps and kind of looked at what we felt the appropriate distance was, because my perspective is I really value the commercial property, and that's what we want to encourage and foster is that commercial growth. But there's some areas where that just may not be feasible, and so we've done that 300-foot setback so that we keep commercial out on the road. But there are a couple of areas where it may make sense to put some of that high-density housing or apartments or townhomes there. So just kind of an overview from my perspective.
Yep. So staff would recommend approval has been discussed.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions on it? and I think we had a good discussion in the work session, so I'm comfortable with where it's at. Do we have a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve and recommend to the city council the recommendations by staff. I'm sorry, I will talk into the mic this time. I make a motion that we will forward this on to the city council with our approval as recommended by staff.
I'll second.
Have a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Tanner,
Aye.
Commissioner Felt,
Aye.
Commissioner Collins,
Aye.
Chair Cowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Brand,
Aye.
Commissioner Bills.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 7-0. This item will be on the September 1st meeting. The next meeting, which is next week, is geared only for budget and truth and taxation, so.
All right, we will move on to item number 4, which is to consider request for the site plan and architectural review approval for the Royce located at approximately 5430 South, 1900 West. And is the applicant here for that? All right, if you'd go ahead and come forward, and we'll have you state your name and your address, and then just tell us a little bit about your project.
Huh?
Yeah, both of you are welcome to come up.
No, Josh, only you.
My name is Josh Woodbury with Woodbury Corporation, and we are the applicant. The address is 2733 East Parley's Way, Suite 300, Salt Lake City, Utah. And with me, I also have Drew.
Drew Whitehead, also with Woodbury Corporation. Same address. Do I need to repeat it? Okay.
Let's see, at the request of Steve Parkinson, let's see, you would like us to do a review of our,
Yeah, can I present the project?
yep, okay. Commission and Commission Chair, we're happy to be here and present this project, which will be the first, one of the first projects to actively seek approval under the new, downtown zone. We've been actively watching what happens with this downtown zone as we represent the ownership group that not only owns this property but also the adjacent shopping center with Harmons and adjoining retail properties. We also own property on the south west corner of the intersection of 56th and 19th. So we've actively been watching how the new zone gets incorporated, and we understand that this application is one of the first to kind of run through the new zone. Also understand and anticipate that we'll kind of be filling our way a little bit through on interpretation of the code and the intent of the code. We believe that our application for which we're seeking approval, substantially meets the code and the intent of the code, and we'd like to review our programming and design details that would meet code and will be would merit approval from the commission. Drew, you want to run through the programming?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess on this plan that's on the board right here, as you can see, well, even if you go back to the overall, maybe, for those of you that may not be aware of this, so the big white box right in the middle of the screen is the existing Harmons, and then there's some strip retail pad buildings that are built just on the south of Harmons there. The plan here is to basically take down those strip centers and build in this, which looks like mostly just a parking lot, but that's actually a ground floor parking structure. And the middle portion right there is kind of like a landscaping amenities area, fronted by a a commercial office leasing office for the apartment building. If you look further to the south, right in front of the parking structure, so it's not, the parking structure is wrapping around the entire outside of the site, but on the west side of the building, like I said, there's leasing offices, parking entrances to the parking structure, and then in front of it, on that southwest corner, there are actually several live-work units that'll also front that. So, but up above the parking structure, there's vertical circulation for all of the apartment buildings up above, as you can see here. So this is that top image is what I was just explaining as far as the west side. So the commercial leasing office is right there with the black on the main floor, followed by the live work units just to the south of it, like I said, and then about 260 units up above of residential housing. So the idea was to really captivate and not only make it really activate that area, but it's also the way that we designed the building is to really captivate the beautiful views of the mountains that we have here in Utah, both to the north and to the west, to the east, as well as views to the west. So, yeah, that's like I said, with several live work units, commercial space here in the middle, followed by the amenities deck that's back in the middle courtyard there, as well as a secondary amenities deck, which you can't see in this image. The building is kind of like an S shape. And so on the second floor, there's also a secondary amenities deck for the units that are, like I said, it's located, and you can have views to the east as well. If there's any questions or...
Yeah, so you mentioned the commercial leasing office. What other commercial components do you have to this?
So just inside the leasing office area, like I said, is different amenities portions for the fitness center and gym for a lot of for the residents. But like I said, there's the 6 live work units that we're hoping to, like I said, activate small businesses to be able to have an opportunity to live and work, but also there's garage spaces inside each of those units where they can create a storefront type environment. So really kind of like an urban setting. And then they can, depending on what the use, whether it's be shipping and receiving or light manufacturing for different products that they may be doing. As well as, along with this whole master development, is building up the pad buildings just in front of this a little bit. So
Yeah, what we've seen a lot with the live work units is a product type that we really like. What we've seen a lot is you'll have a lot of service oriented businesses. So you'll have attorneys, you'll have you'll have salonists, you'll even have people who are doing their little bakeries, right out of their units, and then they have their storefronts where they'll have an active business presence. Our leasing office and amenity area, this is frontage that we need to have. Irregardless, it's what it's how we conduct business on the apartment product. So, since it's an area we are conducting business where we're doing active sales, Philip qualifies as a commercial property. So I think that whole frontage, it is active business use, which would comply with code. In addition to the code, we are not on a primary street. We have properties in front of us, so we're not really on a primary street along 1900 West. So, so along those lines, I think that in the code, some of the requirements for 60% commercial apply to being on a primary street. We don't believe we're on a primary street. Our visibility is blocked. One of the things that we felt we had to do was we purchased the Pawn Depot property just so that we could have access into the property since we weren't on that primary street. So now we control the Pawn Depot property. That allows us to at least have access and a drive aisle to get into the property. But otherwise, I don't think we're on a primary frontage. Even so, I think we still have, basically all of our frontage is an active, and both an activated and commercial use where we're conducting business.
Any other questions?
How many units?
260 something, yeah.
I think we are 265. We have actually been through a few iterations of our site plan, to kind of deal with rising costs initially, and we're at 265 right now. 262.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, we may ask you some more questions in a minute,
Yep.
but for now, we'll go ahead and we'll
Yep.
move on to Steve for a staff presentation.
Great.
Okay, as mentioned, this is a consider request for site plan and architectural review of the Royce. They're on approximately 5430 South, 1900 West. Just kind of giving an aerial location. Dilly Dally's used to be in this location, and then the L-shaped building, I think, had a church in it for a bit. I'm not sure how long it was there or how long it's been gone, but I know there was one there. Harmon's to the north, and then you've got the storage units to the east, and then car connection to the south. Site plan very similar to what the applicant presented. I kind of do show both the landscaped areas that are within the building area portion, plus the landscaping that's along the outside and the perimeter, even that which is goes down to 1900 West in between B's Cafe, and apparently I misspelled it. Should be a Z, not a apostrophe S. But there you go. Anyway, so kind of give you a location and stuff, and then architecturally the same renderings that they've got. In your staff report, you do have planning's comments, and like the applicant said, the first project we had was 40 unit, and it was pretty easy to figure out exactly what and why, because it was, a whole whopping acre, maybe. This one with the mini units and the complexity of it it's gonna be, I'm learning, they're learning as we kind of go through it. So even in the staff report and the planning portion of the DRC comments, I referenced it all commercial, but then commercial could only be this or that. So there's many things that are still kind of, that we've got to nail down. If commercial is required all of it, then we'll figure it. If commercial is required only in some of it, we'll figure it out. But I believe even regardless of the size of commercial that has to be in there, by and large, this meets the code for parking, the number of parking stalls, the location of the stalls, the type of building. Some of the materials are things we'll have to look at as well. But, if they have to change CMU to something else, it's not going to change the overall look of the building. So staff would recommend approval, just kind of subject to the DRC comments that, staff and the applicant can work through.
On 1850 West, that's typically been a one-way access to the property. Is that gonna be cut out?
It's a state road, so we'll need to get with the state of how they want to access that. Right now, it does veer into their project area.
Right.
So it kind of veers into it. So they're proposing to take it out, so the state could require it just kind of continue on. So it's a 90-degree rather than kind of a soft corner. But again, I'm going to refer to UDOT and/or our engineer, because I wasn't around when that got put in. I'm not sure what the requirements were, how come, what for. So those are things that we just have to look for.
Okay.
But state does own all the way, even beyond Riverdale Road underneath. So they'll have to kind of figure it out. And I know we've already had a meeting with UDOT. They kind of did some preliminaries, but things still are, like with UDOT, it's always ongoing. that you can do this if you do that, or do this if you do that. And so those are things they're still working out.
Okay.
And when you talk about the percentage of commercial, that's based off whether it's on a primary road or not, is that?
That's the part that we didn't have to deal with on our first project
Yeah.
because it was all fronting on 1900. So with this being on the back side, those are the nuances I've got to really sit down and figure out. But like I said, even if the whole amenities area is commercial, I don't think it's going to change the the property enough to warrant to come back. I think staff could finalize it all out and still have the same project.
And is that something we need to work on a little bit, the definition of the primary road at some
It's
point?
more
Is
of
that?
me, again, going through all the chapters, the tables, and finding out, okay, exactly what, why, and how come. So we got a great guinea pig here for it to happen.
Did I miss on the review, what are your plans to do with the pawn shop? Is it to be demolished or is it gonna stay open?
It will be demolished. They're actually already gone.
They're out of it,
They vacated.
but the building's still there.
Yes.
So your plan is to
And the
take it down and
Lamborghini's
it'll
still
be
there.
just open space?
We intend that we build a commercial
A
building there.
commercial building, okay.
Yeah, and I know I keep bringing up the commercial, but that's something I just really want to make sure we protect.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you're not right on 1900, but it is also on that corridor. And so I just want to make sure that we're not selling ourselves short on the commercial component of things. And that's really where I'm kind of coming from
And
on my
that's
line
why I
of
think
questioning.
if you trust staff to make sure that they're compliant with the code, we'll make sure if it has to be commercial, it'll be commercial. If we can, half of it can be commercial, then only half. And so we'll work through it, and I'll sit down with Brody and Andy and make sure that I'm understanding and they're understanding as well. And then sit down with the applicant, see how they read it, and
I don't know if Mr. Woodbury is an attorney, but he sounded like one when he was making his presentation for part of it. And I want to ask Brody a question, and I know that maybe we're in the preliminary stages, but he's talking about substantial compliance with the commercial part. Needs to be worked on, or are we comfortable?
It's a really good question. Quite frankly, if it does need to be worked on, it doesn't matter for this applicant, right? I mean, he's got the code that's in front of him right here.
Yeah.
And so as we go through it, if we do think that we want to change that, then we can look at that.
Shouldn't affect our decision, is what you're saying.
Absolutely not.
Done.
Right now. I mean, even if, let's say we hated it,
good.
right? We can't change it for their project,
Right.
so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm good.
Any other questions or discussion?
So that commercial location on 1900, that's up closer to the road there, what are you guys' plans for that? You just said commercial building, or is it gonna be like, there's gonna be a couple offices in there, you plan on putting
No, we're-
residential on top, or?
Yeah, we're contemplating it would be restaurant or other retail services, not office.
Okay,
As opposed to office, we do restaurant, food services or retail.
Steakhouse
Okay.
would be really nice.
yeah.
Just saying, we haven't got one in Roy, so a steakhouse would be really nice.
Okay.
Just a request, not a mandate.
Okay, well, if there's no other discussion or questions, a motion is in order.
I make a motion that we recommend to the city council approval of the,
Nope.
I'm sorry, we don't have to go there, do we?
no.
Okay, then I recommend that we approve the request as stated in the agenda.
For the site plan or the architectural?
Have to do
We'll have to do
separate, right?
two, yeah.
I'll do it as for the site plan first.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the site plan
With the conditions, or?
With the conditions.
conditions,
As
yes.
stated.
As stated in the staff report.
I'll second it.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And And then the architectural review, do we have a motion on that?
I make a motion that we approve the architectural, what is it, review plan? Architectural plan of the Royce, with the conditions outlined in the report.
Right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously as well. With that, Commissioners' minute, do any of the commissioners, I don't have anything personally, do any of the other commissioners have anything? Thank you. Okay, we will move on to staff update, Steve.
Update, ordinance-wise with the council. They looked at and approved the height, building height, with some amendments. So they took out the equidistance, the 4 equidistance and 8 points, and just made it so a high point and a low point on the hill, so did an averaging of that. They made the height of the building at the top or peak of roof and not midpoint as it was gone through. I'm trying to think of, took away some of the architectural features like the parapet wall. If you had a, unenclosed gazebo or a lattice, they took those aspects out, but left in, staircases, elevator, and a few other things that they left in. So it did get approved. Otherwise, Holiday Oil, I believe, is open. You can only access it from 4300 South. They're still working through UDOT with the 5500 South access. The project on Hinckley and 1900 is proceeding forward. Not a lot of concrete work left. They're still terracing it, but you'll see green pipes coming out. So a lot of the underground work is already being completed. The townhomes on 4300 West, just north of Holiday Oil, have gone through a pre-construction meeting, so they should be starting with their construction. Any other developments that you're curious about? Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Last item of the day. Do we have a motion?
Adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's 2. Halfway there.
Oh,
At the new steakhouse.